As Elon Musk tears open the bureaucracy, the deep state is fighting back. What is the deep state? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. For weeks now, we've been hearing about Doge and Elon Musk's government takeover. I did a full breakdown of the white-collar carnage in this episode. Check it out. Amidst the chaos, we've been hearing a lot about the deep state, the real power behind the U.S. government. Some claim this faceless entity is fighting President Trump tooth and nail to preserve its power over the government, while others say the deep state is just a myth, and others say the deep state isn't real, but if it is real, that's a good thing. But assuming it does exist, who is the deep state? A shadowy cabal of billionaires hell-bent on creating the New World Order? A conspiracy of vampiric child predators controlling our politicians from behind the scenes? Is it the Irish? No, and, well...
Mr. Biden, a quick word for the BBC.
The BBC, I'm Irish.
Okay, fine, no. But seriously, what's the deep state? Who's standing in the way of Trump's agenda? Vice President J.D. Vance named a few candidates.
I think if any of us want to do the things that we want to do for our country and for the people who live in it, we have to honestly and aggressively attack the universities in this country. Capital money itself is increasingly taking a side in the culture war, and I hate to say it's not our side. The only way to push back against this stuff in a real way is to make these companies feel economic pain. Step one in the process is to totally replace, like rip out like a tumor, the current American leadership class, and then reinstall some sense of American, political religion.
Okay, so it's the universities, corporations, and our leaders in general. Obviously, beating all of these groups is an ambitious task, but where did the vice president get these ideas?
There's this guy, Curtis Yarvin, who's written about some of these things.
Now, I'm sure you're all asking, who's Curtis Yarvin? Curtis Yarvin is a software engineer, writer, political theorist, and self-described monarchist who previously wrote under the pen name Mencius Moldbug. In 2007, he began writing a series of blog posts called Unqualified Reservations, wherein he laid out his views on liberal democracy, the deep state, and his brand of far-right neo-reactionary thought. A relatively unknown figure at the time, his ideas have gained the attention of people like Silicon Valley investor Peter Thiel and Vice President Vance. He was even recently interviewed by the New York Times. In his view, the deep state isn't a bunch of evil backroom conspirators. It's not even really a secret. Rather, it's just the way America's operated for almost a century. According to Yarvin, it all started during the Great Depression, under President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. To try and save America's failing economy, FDR brought in a group known as his Brain Trust, lawyers, executives, journalists, and Ivy League professors who would help craft policy for his New Deal administration. These experts, by and large, believed the government should take a more active role in guiding the country. To do this, they would have to create a bunch of new government agencies, and these agencies would be led by, who else? The experts. So in the 12 years FDR was president, over 69 new government offices were created, with many of them led by the Brain Trust. While some of these organizations were temporary, like the famous Works Progress Administration, others stayed on long after the New Deal. Still others saw their roles expanded, such as the FBI, CIA, and Department of Justice. But that kind of government expansion didn't just end when FDR died. Over the following decades, the government got bigger and bigger. Today, there's estimated to be over 400 agencies and sub-agencies, employing more than 3 million people. This titanic bureaucracy would be impossible for anyone to manage, be it Congress or the president. In effect, these organizations are autonomous, operating with little to no oversight, which is how a country $36 trillion in debt can still find money for transgender comic books in Peru. And that's another important thing to note. The current crop of experts don't exactly stack up to the ones in FDR's day. Say what you will about the New Dealers, they managed to win World War II. Meanwhile, all we got were a series of horrible quagmires, financial ruin, a global pandemic, and tax dollars for DEI initiatives in Serbia? So if nobody is controlling things at the top, how does anything get done? Who decides the direction the country should move in? Well, according to Curtis Yarvin, the deep state gets its ideas from what he calls the Cathedral, a decentralized body of academics, journalists, and influential artists generating consensus through a system of rank and prestige. Okay, that sounds like a lot. But thankfully, we have this handy chart to make things as simple as possible. So at the very top of the Cathedral are the brain and the voice. One is a genius, the other's insane. The brain are your elite thinkers, experts, and university professors who produce so-called truth. The voice are the journalists and respected artists who put those quote-unquote true stories out through the mainstream media. Think the New York Times. Then there's the conversation, the upper class who read those stories and share those talking points at their cocktail parties and such. Below that is the foundation, the rich people who fund the Cathedral. Once all the cool, smart, rich people are on the same page, those ideas inevitably filter down to the school. Those are the universities who instruct the next generation of America's leaders. Those university grads go on to join the bureaucracy and create government policy. Why is that a problem? Because it means government policy is not driven by the elected officials we vote into office. Instead, it's driven by this group of unelected elites. The idea of a deep state isn't unique to American politics. The term deep state actually comes from the Turkish derin devlet. It refers to a coalition of Turkish officers, intelligence agents, judges, and mafiosos who for decades maintained a secular dictatorship in an otherwise Islamic country. The American deep state, meanwhile, leans center-left. This puts the ruling bureaucracy at odds with the country which, according to the last election, thinks Orange Man good. You can see this reflected in the political donations of government employees. Of the top 10 largest public sector unions, all of them gave overwhelmingly to Democrats. But this isn't some shadowy conspiracy. The deep state is just, well, the state. According to Curtis Yarvin's worldview, the state gets its ideas and power from the Cathedral, academia, and the media. As the head of the system, the Cathedral has an absolutely massive influence on education, finance, and public opinion. And all those institutions are throwing up as many barriers as they can to Trump's agenda. Depending on your political views, that's either a great thing or a horrible thing. Why have I spent so much time talking about Yarvin's concept of the Cathedral? Well, because there are some signs that his ideas are having a real influence on the Trump administration. Trump's offer to buy out federal workers was suggested by Yarvin back in 2012 under what he called the RAGE plan, retire all government employees. And it seems like Trump has taken another play straight out of the Curtis Yarvin handbook and is attacking the Cathedral at its source. When it comes to academia, universities may lose federal grants and have their endowments heavily taxed should they refuse to comply with Trump's policies against DEI. Some say Trump plans to go all Henry VIII on schools, which I'm sure makes techno-monarchist Yarvin very, very happy. And as for the media, Trump's new FCC chair, Brendan Carr, vows to make life for biased mainstream news a lot harder. By taking out the brain, the voice, and the conversation, there's no telling how far Trump could go in remaking America in his image. But can Trump and Doge successfully break up the deep state, or will the cool kids stop the MAGA movement in its tracks? Leave a comment and let me know your prediction. And if you're interested in this kind of news not endorsed by the Cathedral, join us at AmericaUncovered.tv. There's a lot of great exclusive stuff you can only see on the website, and you'll be supporting our mission of fact-based, nonpartisan news. The link is below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.